Now, speaking of the evil in this world, again, there is evil that can be redeemed. That's called klipat noga. There's evil that cannot be redeemed. That's called the shalosh klipot atmeot. The word for evil is used as klipa. That's the word klipa, which means peel, because some peels indeed can be played with in order to reveal the fruit, just like it is in fruits, and some can't. But let's conclude now. Let's just do this. Let's conclude chapter 6 and then go directly to chapter 7. Who wants to read the last few sentences here at the bottom of page 170? Anyone? Go on. Okay, go for it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Also deriving from and sustained by the three utterly profane klipot are the existence and vitality of all actions, utterances, and thoughts pertaining to the 365 prohibitions and their offshoots, as it is explained in that work at the end of chapter 5.
Right. Okay. So that's the last idea, and we'll transition to chapter 7. But what he's saying is that, speaking of the evil in this world, that evil is included all the 365 prohibitions, which pertain to both thought, speech, and action. For example, lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha, that one should not hate his brother in his heart. It's not an action, it's a feeling. But it's still a commandment not to hate your brother in your heart. Then, of course, there are commandments that pertain to gossiping, to words. And there are commandments, of course, that pertain to action. But all of these 365 negative commandments that warn us not to do things because they are evil are included in this evil department of this world. Okay, let's go to chapter 7. I would suggest going, yes, Rabbi Eisen, please.
Would you define evil?
Thank you. Good.
Of good, is there a metaphysical reality to it? Is it just out of order as opposed to something which is in order? When the word evil is used here, what do you mean?
So in this context, the klipot, they are defined as anything that goes against God. That's the way they are defined. So it's a very, very broad definition. I would say maybe to dig deeper into this, it's a very good question, but I would say that evil is anything that destroys, brings any type of destruction to the human being, to the world, and again, emotional destruction, spiritual destruction, not just physical destruction. Destroys in order to destroy, of course, not, there's some destruction that is really in essence construction. I'm not talking about that. But I would say that's evil because God is the ultimate creator. God wants to create. He wants to do good. And we have to become his channels to create and to construct goodness. Anything that opposes that, I think, is evil. But I would love to hear your definition, Rabbi Eisen, of evil or anyone else's. Really, Ronnie, please.
I know it when I see it.
That's it. Yeah.
So I don't think evil is a switch that can be turned on or off. You either have evil or you don't have evil. I think there is some tolerance that's needed and some boundaries. And so I think it's important that we just don't, we're not against evil, because there is, for instance, when we are buried in the ground, we go away, we disappear. And those things take away from our life.
Right. It's true.
So do you think that all evil is bad, that it's bad or good?
It's a good question. Look, evil is evil. Evil is bad.
Okay.
Evil
I
is
got it.
But sometimes, No, but sometimes it's interesting because my father says so, and I think I've mentioned this before, that the only way, he's an aeronautical engineer, the only way planes can fly is if they have opposing winds. If without opposing winds, the plane can't fly. Same it is with life. Sometimes without evil, goodness can't thrive. So if we look at it with those lenses, right, then evil can be good. Evil itself is not good, but it can create good by allowing the plane to fly, so to speak. Or I think it's true, with any challenges can bring us to the next level in life. Rabbi Steinsaltz himself would say that it's impossible to climb a ladder from ramp to ramp without losing our balance a little bit. And same with life. It's impossible to climb to the next level without losing our balance a little bit. That loss of balance you might categorize as evil or a terrible thing, but if we can use it and channel it in the right way, then we can help ourselves get to the next ramp of the ladder. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that all falls right into place. So thank you.
No, thank you, Arnie. Thank you. Rabbi Eisen, what's your definition of evil? You put me on the spot. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
It's, it's to me, I don't like the subjective qualification as evil being bad necessarily. I look at evil as being out of order. If the goal of life is tikkun, to put everything back in order, then evil is where the chaos of creation still exists. I'm always fascinated by, Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. Okay, the good inclination, what's called the evil inclination, but I always just looked at that as sort of our instinctual drives to survive and to carry on to the next generation. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's the famous midrash. I remember it, so that's what's famous, where they try to get rid of the and then no one builds a house, no one gets married, no chickens lay eggs. Those world sort of stops. So it has to be there. But so the Yetzer Tov is given the prerogative, you might say, the power to subdue it or to keep it under control.
Right.
And I also go back to I don't know whether the rabbi said it tongue in cheek, but they say that, when a child becomes 13, bar mitzvah, that's when the Yetzer Tov kicks in. That's when most become hormonally challenged, and it's exactly the opposite. So I don't look at Ra as necessarily having this objective or metaphysical reality of being bad. I just see it out of order.
Right. No, well said. I think all that also falls into the klipat noga, right? That can be used. Evil that can be used for good. So in essence, it's not evil. There is an element of this world, though, it ought to be said that it is where evil is bad, right? You can't, for example, murder. Murder is bad. Rape is bad, is evil. So there's nothing to channel there. That's the shalosh klipot atmaot. But you're right. There's a lot of the facets of evil. Many facets of evil are potentially good. Potentially good. That's klipat noga, right? Okay. Yes. Yes, Diana.
I think we're in a situation here where we're limited by our vocabulary and we get used to it and we don't think about it a lot, but there are many limitations to our vocabulary. And this is a good example of it. I could give you many more, but I won't do that. Okay.
No, that's right. That's right. You're right. Yeah. I think particularly in English, I once read this article of comparing languages, but I think the Russian language and the Chinese language are the languages with the most words. So maybe in those languages, there are more descriptions for evil. English is actually at the bottom of the list. Less words in English. So certainly in English, there aren't many words that can really get to the bottom of this. But yeah, thank you. You're right. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue. I would suggest going to page 174 so that we begin chapter 7 together with Rabbi Steinsaltz's commentary. And I would suggest again going to the words, chapter 6 began discussion of Zitracha, where Rabbi Steinsaltz here gives a short conclusion on chapter 6 that we just studied over many weeks, and also a short introduction on chapter 7 that we're about to study. Does that work? Okay, so let's go again. 174, does anyone want to read? Chapter 7. Commentary.
I'll read.
Let's go. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you.
Okay. Chapter 6 began discussion of the Sitra Akra, the other side, that is contrary to holiness and derives nourishment from the back or externality of the divine will, and that constitutes the klipa husk of the inner content of creation. The chapter concluded by establishing that klipa comprises two basic levels. The lower level includes the 3 thoroughly profane and negative klipot, which contain no good at all. Though, as we said, it is not possible for anything to exist without any positive content. The meaning of no good at all might be understood that on these levels, the positive content of klipa is inaccessible to us and thus is of no actual significance. The higher level, which will be discussed in this chapter, is klipa noga, the luminescent husk in which some good is mixed in.
Right. Okay, so that's why, Rabbi Eisen, I thank you particularly for your words, because I think they're a good segue to this. The luminescent husk, the klipat noga, which is the evil that can be redeemed. And therefore, evil is not always evil, as Rabbi Eisen was saying. So let's continue now with the first few lines of chapter 7. On the other hand, this is what this chapter is about, klipat noga. So let's go.
Okay, on the other hand, the vitalizing animal soul in the Jew deriving from klipa, which is clothed in the animal blood as stated above.
Yeah.
The animal soul, which the author discussed in chapter 1, is not necessarily animal in the derogatory and base sense of the word. It is meant in the biological sense in which man, too, is classified as an animal. The drives and desires of this soul, like those of all animals, are not necessarily evil. They are part of the biological stratum of creation. A human being's brain is larger relative to his body and more highly developed than that of other animals. As a result, what we might call the animalism in him derives from that in other creatures, even though he is basically part of the same genera. The animal soul in man is the force of the natural life, infusing him with the basic vitality he shares with all other living things. This soul derives from klipa noga, also
Right.
on the level
Yeah.
of klipa noga.
Yeah, so let's just stop here because I think it's important to dwell on this just a little bit. But so it reminds me what we just read. Thank you, Margot, for reading. So it reminds me of really a Talmudic statement that says that the human being really is a combination of two forces, of an animal, an ape, basically. By the way, that's where Darwin got it from the Talmud. So we're a combination of an ape and an angel. There's these two sides in every single human being. That animal soul is the ape in us. Now, there's nothing wrong about an ape. Apes are cute. Apes are also almost human. Apes eat the same way we eat. They sleep the same way we sleep and so on. But on the other hand, if we want to connect only to our animal side, then what's the difference between us and another animal? I remember Rabbi Steinsaltz once calling one of the teenagers who, in our yeshiva. He was a year older than me. I was, I think, 15 at the age, or 15 or 16 years old, studying his yeshivas, and he said to the teenager, he wanted to shake him up, and he said to him, tell me how your day looks like. So he says, look, I wake up, I pray a little bit, I eat breakfast, and then I study. He says, but you don't really study, I hear from your teachers. He says, yes, I space out very quickly. So then I eat a little bit, and I go to sleep a little bit, and then bottom line, Robert Stels was trying to tell him, and this is what he told him. Then, so tell me, what's the main difference between you and a donkey? He sleeps, he wakes up, he prays a little bit, he does exactly what you're doing. What's the difference? If you want to be better than the donkey in life, then you have to up your game. And in a way, I think it's true for many human beings. I mean, we interact with others like other animals do. We eat like other animals do. We sleep like what's the difference between us and the donkey at the end of the day? It's a question that must haunt us. But that's what this is saying. There's an animal side, but it's not bad. It's not bad. The animal side is not bad. But we have to elevate that animal side, that ape side, to an angelic side, because we also have an angelic side. How do we do that? That's a whole different question. And that's he speaks about at the very beginning of the time, chapter 2, and then much later on too. But I would suggest here just a quick thought, and that is that each time we do something that an animal cannot do, but that it is on a higher level than an animal, then we are connecting to our angelic side. What do we do? I'm not talking about just holy actions like studying Torah and doing mitzvot, but for example, it dawned on me yesterday because yesterday we spoke about, in the Parsha, we spoke about how Sarah laughed when she heard that she was going to have a son at an old age. Do you know that animals don't laugh? Human beings do. Maybe a dog sometime, I don't know, you know, they make this weird noise. It's called laughter for dogs, but animals don't laugh. So each time we laugh, we're connecting to the angelic side, not to the ape side in us. So it's not just, okay, not just mitzvahs, but each time we do something an animal can't do that is a little higher than the animal, then we're connecting to the angelic side. That's why it's important to remember this. But that's the idea here, right? That there's an animal within each and every one of us. Any comments? Yes, please, Ronnie.
Yes, I'd like to reserve the next hour to discuss this, at least an hour, to get just the beginning of it.
Yes.
There's much here to hear and to understand, and I understood it as you were saying it, but I'm wondering if you could just back up a little bit and take some smaller chunks, and we can maybe get some of that, because there's so much. It's rich. I mean, you're throwing out all these nuggets, and I think they deserve some more stuff.
Right. So I'm going to go to the core idea. The core idea is that we have a choice as human beings, each and every day, and maybe even many times a day, whether to connect to our animal side or connect to our angelic side.
Okay.
And the goal really of life is to connect to our angelic side as much as we can. That's really the goal.
Well, can I stop you there, please?
Yeah,
With that?
please.
I think both are very important, and they both support. It's in the right balance. We want the animal soul and the angelic soul. There are times that each needs to lead, and leaning heavy on the angelic side, you know, but we need to also nourish the animal side and keep it healthy too.
Right. No, you're right. And this is exactly what this chapter is about, chapter 7.
Yeah. Great.
Right. Exactly. No, that's right. So it's not that the animal side is negative and therefore we're connecting to the angelic side, but we have to, in a way, channel the animal side towards the angelic side. Not ignore it, but channel.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
No, thank you. Okay. Any other comments, questions, disagreements? Okay, let's continue now. Then a little bit more. Bottom of 174. Also on the level of Klipat Noga R. And then the words in bold. Does anyone want to read? Ms. Margaret, you want to continue? Anyone?
If nobody else wants to, I will.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Also on the level of Klipot Noga are the souls of the animals, beasts, birds, and fishes that are pure and permitted for consumption. The existence and vitality of all inanimate substances, all of the vegetable world that is permissible for consumption, and the existence and vitality of every act, utterance, and thought in mundane matters that contain no forbidden aspect, being neither root nor branch of the 365 prohibited precepts and their offshoots either on the authority of the Torah or by rabbinical enactment.
Right. Let's continue with the commentary of Rabbi Steinsaltz.
In other words, Klipot Noga includes all the things or actions in existence that have no moral fault or forbidden aspect on the one hand, but which also do not possess in and of themselves any aspect of mitzvah, of divine service on the other. This broad spectrum is not the domain of the dark, the forbidden, or the corrupt, but the sphere of the non-holy and the neutral, that which is neither mitzvah nor sin. Anything forbidden, whether biblically or rabbinically, belongs to the world of the three profound klipot, as stated in chapter 6. Something that is not forbidden by Torah does not belong to the utterly profane klipot, but neither is it holy. The old Hasidic saying states, what is forbidden, one must not. What is permitted, one need not. To think about that.
Yeah.
What What is forbidden is evil, wholly of the other side, but what is permitted is also klipa and sitra achra. What is permitted is not holy and therefore belongs to the other side, for the other side includes all that is not holy. What is not a mitzvah, what is not actively holy, that is subservient to and expressive of the divine, is husk, something extraneous to the divine essence of creation. The difference between the forbidden and the permitted is not the difference between holiness and klipa, but the difference between levels of klipa, between klipa that can be rectified and klipa that cannot be rectified.
Right. Okay. So yeah, dwelling. I mean, like Ronnie was saying, this is quite rich. But dwelling on this idea of klipat noga, and I would say that I think most of our day really dwells in the realm of klipat noga, right? I mean, there are times of our day in which we are dedicated completely to holiness. There are times of our day in which we are absent, so we sleep, fine. So there's nothing can be asked of us then. But otherwise, whether we are sleeping, eating, whether we are working, whether we are, I don't know, exercising, all these domains are really klipat noga domains, are neutral domains. And the question then becomes, how will we use those domains? Will we relate to them as animals relate to them? Again, it's nothing bad. Or will we use these domains to elevate them towards holiness? So a practical example, when I eat, am I eating just for pleasure, or am I eating in order to gain strength and to do good, to do a mitzvah? So I could be eating for an hour, having lunch for a whole hour, and then doing one mitzvah for 5 minutes, but the whole hour of the lunch was elevated because of those 5 minutes. I channeled the strength that the lunch gave me for the 5 minutes. Or the act itself of lunch can also be holy. When I say the blessing over the food, if I have lunch with someone and we speak words of Torah, or better, even words of healing, then that in of itself turns the klipat noga of the lunch into something holy. And I would say again that maybe, I don't know, 70% of our day, 80% of our day is in the realm of klipat noga. So it's a major thought, and therefore a major commitment. But it's something that we must be conscious of, really, to transform the mundane part of our day into something holy. Yes, Ronnie.
You said a lot there too. And can you just in 1 or 2 sentences say what klipa noga is?
Right. So he calls it luminescent husk, right? Or in simpler English, illuminating peel. Now, what this means is that there's a peel that is covering a little bit of light. And when we can peel it, then the light is revealed. So eating is that peel, to give an example. But when we use the eating experience for something holy, then we are uncovering that peel to reveal the light within. So that's what klipat noga, that's really the definition of klipat noga. Yes, Ronnie.
I've heard the term all my life, holiness. I've just heard you say it a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
What qualifies something to be holy, A, and B, why do we care?
Right. Holiness is connecting that which is disconnected from God back to God. That's holiness. Now, how do we know really, how to connect things to God? God has a map for us, and that's called the Torah. For example, when he tells us, again, to do a mitzvah, when he tells us, for example, to put on tefillin. So we're connecting a cow to God. And by connecting that cow to God, we make that holy. So any reconnection of this world to God himself, by using the roadmap of the Torah to do so, we can create holiness.
Good.
Yeah. Now, I think this idea therefore pertains, that's why I use the word holiness, specifically to the world of Klipat Noga, because the world of Klipat Noga is disconnected from God, but we have the power to connect it to God. So eating, working out, working itself, if we use all of these activities in a way of reconnecting them to God, then we make them holy.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's important to know that whichever one of those things I'm doing, there is a too much and a not enough. And it's, you know, it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, just right. And what feels just right for me, that's when I connect to holiness.
Get it? Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you, Ronnie. I know Diana, you want to say something? Yes. But you're on mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
I hit, okay, now we're okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm sitting here for the last 10 minutes, maybe, having this vision that is just incredible.
Yeah.
That's coming through, where I am seeing that we are here today interpreting 365 precepts and how we live our lives based on that and what it will do for the world. And I'm starting to think about, here we are, here were these people back then. What is it going to be like 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now? And I'm sitting here with this whole big thing of, and watching our direction that we're going in. Is it up? Is it down? Is it, what kind of guidance do we need, which we receive from you and other people that are here in this, in our little group even, is guidance. And it just, I just wanted to share with you that the immensity of this vision that's going through my head.
Right.
So I'm not looking for any answers. I'm just feeling it. And I wanted to let you know.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Friends, before we conclude this class, I know it's already 8 o'clock. I just want to share maybe a Hasidic story that encapsulates this message that we've been speaking about. But the story about a Hasidic master, I believe it was the Rashab, Rabbi Shalom Ber of Lubavitch, who was once visited by a businessman. And this businessman was telling the Rebbe about all of his travels in the marketplaces of the world to buy and sell. And at one point, the Rebbe tells him, I'm envious of you. He says, you're envious of me? You, Rebbe, are jealous of me? He says, yes, because you have the opportunities I don't have. What opportunities? When you're in the marketplace and you're in the middle of a business deal and you discuss with that person God himself or an idea from the Torah or something that is holy, then you are turning the whole business deal and potentially even the whole marketplace into holy. I don't have these opportunities. I'm here in my study hall, with my sitting with my little shul. But you have the opportunity to truly transform the world. So I'm envious of you. And in a way, I think we have to remember this, really. You know, that really the task of life altogether is to be in that mundane reality and in that realm of Klipat Noga and transform it into something really holy. When we do that, then we're transforming the world in a way that even Hasidic rabbis sometimes can't do.